So now we'll be discussing on the laws for the protection of women against violence, and we'll be discussing the various legislations under special laws. So as I have discussed earlier, that there are various special laws that may be Special Marriage Act 1954, Hindu Marriage Act, Hindu Succession Act, Immoral Trafficking Act. I have discussed the four acts already, and now we'll be discussing the various other special laws. First and foremost, you see the Maternity Benefit Act of 1961. The maternity benefit in India, it is mainly governed by the Maternity Benefit Act 1961, and it applies to all shops and establishments with 10 or more employees. Those women who work in factories with 10 or more workers are given maternity benefits as available under the Employee State Insurance Act 1948. The employers are required to inform women in writing and electronically about the maternity benefits available under the Maternity Benefit Act upon their joining the workforce. So these are certain like protection which is available under the Maternity Benefit Act, that the employer should inform the woman in writing and electronically about the maternity benefits. There are various maternity benefits. It provides that woman will be paid the maternity benefit at the rate of her average daily wage in the 3 months preceding her maternity leave. However, the woman needs to have worked for the employer for at least 80 days in the 12 month preceding the date of her expected delivery. So it is one of the benefit which is available to a woman under the Maternity Benefit Act. It also provides that originally they provided a benefit of 12 weeks, but now it has been amended and now it has been extended to a period of 26 weeks. Out of the 26 weeks, up to 8 weeks can be claimed before delivery. However, you need not structure your leaves in this manner. You can instead take the entire 26 weeks of leave after the delivery. Also, these are the maximum periods of claim, and you can claim the benefit for a smaller period as well. Under the Maternity Benefit Act, if a woman has more than two surviving children, the maternity benefit is for 12 weeks only. The law was also amended to extend maternity benefits to commissioning and adoptive mothers too. This is one of the very important protection which is available to a woman, that it is also available to commissioning and adoptive mothers who are now entitled to 12 weeks of leave from the date of mother receives the child. Then it also provides that women undergoing a tubectomy operation also get a paid leave of 2 weeks following the operation. In case of miscarriage or medical termination of pregnancy, the law permits women 6 weeks leave after the procedure. In case of an illness after delivery, miscarriage, medical termination of pregnancy, or tubectomy, a woman can claim a leave with wages for a further period of 1 month over and above what is allowed. The law also allows employers to permit women employees to work from home. This is also one of the benefit or the protection available to a woman in addition to the maternity benefit period if the nature of work allows that. This law was further amended in 2017 to make it mandatory for the establishment with more than 50 workers to establish creches. Now mothers are entitled to visit the creches up to 4 times a day and at least 2 nursing breaks per day in addition to any other breaks that are available as a matter of course until the child attains the age of 15 months. Now see, one of the other provision or protection available under this particular act is that an employer cannot dismiss a woman for taking a maternity leave and cannot serve a termination notice to a woman on maternity leave which expires before the maternity leave ends. Also, an employer cannot change the terms of services to the woman's disadvantage during her maternity leave. Now, the maternity benefit and medical bonus will have to be paid to a woman who is discharged or dismissed during pregnancy unless it is for gross misconduct. So these are various protection which is available under the Maternity Benefit Act. The next legislation we'll talk about, which is the protection available to a woman under the Dowry Prohibition Act 1961. Section 3 provides the penalty for giving or taking dowry. Section 3 of the Dowry Prohibition Act says that whoever takes dowry is an offence, and its abatement is also punishable with imprisonment of 5 years and also with fine which shall not be less than 15,000 or the amount of value of such dowry whichever is more. The court is empowered to award a sentence of imprisonment for a term less than 5 years for adequate and special reasons to be recorded in the judgment. So there is a penalty for giving whoever gives or takes dowry. Next protection or the provision available under the Dowry Prohibition Act is the penalty for demanding dowry. Whoever demands a dowry, that is an offense. And whoever demands it directly or indirectly from parents, guardian, or relatives of a bride or bridegroom, he is liable to punishment with imprisonment of 6 months, which may extend to 2 years, and fine. Court may impose lesser imprisonment of less than 6 months on special grounds. So you see, there is a penalty for demanding also dowry. So the next very provision which is available under the Dowry Prohibition Act is dowry to be for the benefit of the wife or her heir. See, when the dowry is received by any person other than the woman, that person is obliged to return the dowry to the woman within 3 months from receipt of that property or valuable security or marriage. The receiver is only the trustee for the property or valuable security, and the woman is the ultimate beneficiary, and he holds it for the benefit of the woman. Now, these are the various protection which is available under the Dowry Prohibition Act. The next provision or the legislation is Medical Termination of Pregnancy Act 1971. The MTP Act, it came in India into existence in 1971. It was amended in 2002 to facilitate better and more universal implementation and increase access for women, especially in private health sector. Section 3 provides that when pregnancy can be terminated by a registered medical practitioner. Pregnancy may be terminated by one registered medical practitioner after 12 weeks of pregnancy and up to 20 weeks with the consent of two registered medical practitioners in the following situations. The continuance of the pregnancy would involve a risk to the life of the pregnant woman or of grave injury to her physical or mental health, or if there is a substantial risk that if the children were born, it would suffer from such physical or mental abnormalities as to be seriously handicapped. And in determining whether the continuance of a pregnancy would involve such risk of injury to the health as is mentioned in subsection 2, account may be taken of the pregnant woman's actual or reasonably foreseeable environment. So this is one of the legislation and the provision available under the MTP Act. The next provision is under the Equal Remuneration Act 1976. As I have already discussed when I was discussing the fundamental rights part under Article 14, where it speaks of right to equality. So you see that under this very section 4 and 5 of the Equal Remuneration Act 1976, it provides for equal remuneration for equal work to both the male and the female workers for performing such works of similar nature, and it prohibits discrimination in matters of recruitment of men and women, which discrimination, if carried out, is punishable with imprisonment which shall not be less than 3 months but which can be extended to 1 year and fine. So you see, there should be equal remuneration be given to both the male and the female workers for performing the works of a similar nature. And if it is not in consonance with this act, it is a punishable offense. Next legislation is the Factories Act 1948. Section 19 of the Factories Act requires the construction of separate latrines and urinals for women. So this is one of the protection which is available for a woman who is working in a factory. Section 22 of this particular Factories Act provides that no woman shall be required to clean, lubricate, or adjust any part of a prime mover or any transmission machinery while in motion. Section 27 of the said Act, it also provides that no woman shall be employed in any part of a factory for pressing cotton in which a cotton opener is at work. Section 48 thereof lays down that in every factory wherein more than 30 women workers are employed, there should be provided and maintained a suitable room for the use of children under the age of 6 years of such women. The next particular act is the Domestic Violence Act 2005. This act is in addition to the existing laws. the aggrieved person has the right to file a complaint simultaneously under Section 498A of IPC, as I've already discussed about the cruelty by husband or the relative of the husband, which is provided in Section 498A. So the aggrieved person, and for the domestic violence, she can file a complaint simultaneously under 498A of IPC. And reliefs under the Domestic Violence Act can also be asked for in other legal proceedings. For example, the petition for divorce, maintenance, Section 498 of IPC. This particular act also covers all women. It doesn't cover only a wife. It covers all of women who may be a mother, sister, wife, widow, or partner living in a shared household. So you see, woman includes mother, sister, wife, widow, or partners living in a shared household. The relationship may be in nature of marriage or adoption. In addition, relationship with family members living together as a joint family are also included. However, no female relatives of the husband or the male partner can file a complaint against the wife or the female partner. For example, the mother-in-law cannot file an application against a daughter-in-law, but she can file an application against her daughter-in-law for abetting her son to commit violence against her. So this is one of the very important provision which is available to a woman. This act also provides that any woman who alleges to have been subjected to any act of domestic violence by the offender or any person may file a complaint on her behalf. A child is also entitled to relief under the Domestic Violence Act. This is also one of the important things to be taken into consideration, that a child is also entitled to relief under the Domestic Violence Act. The mother of such child can make an application on behalf of that minor child. In cases where the mother makes an application to the court for herself, the children can also be added as co-applicants. Then a complaint can be filed against any adult male member who has been in a domestic relationship with a woman or relatives of the husband or the male partner, and includes both male and female relatives of the male partner. So these are various protection under the Domestic Violence Act 2005. The next act or the next special law under which there is a protection available to a woman is the sexual harassment of women at workplace. This is very important, and everyone should be aware of this particular protection, since every man and woman are being employed and they are being treated equally in the place of work. And there are various instances of sexual harassment at workplace. So there are various provisions which are available to a woman, and she should be well versed. Not only she, everyone should be well versed with the protection available at workplace. Now see, one of the various important judgment, the landmark judgment for the sexual harassment is Vishaka judgment, and where it laid down the various guidelines for the prevention of sexual harassment at workplace. So after 16 years of this particular Vishaka judgment, the sexual harassment of women at workplace was enacted with the objective to provide protection against sexual harassment of women at workplace for the prevention and redressal of complaints of sexual harassment and for matter connected therewith or incidental thereto. This particular act defines sexual harassment as unwelcome acts or behavior, namely physical contact, and advances a demand or request for sexual favors, making sexually colored remarks, showing pornography, any other unwelcome physical, verbal, or non-verbal conduct of sexual nature. See, under this very act, it provides that all employers or persons in charge of workplace, whether in the public or private sector, should take appropriate steps to prevent sexual harassment. Without prejudice to the generality of this obligation, they should take the following steps. Express prohibition of sexual harassment as defined above at the workplace. It should be notified, published, and circulated in appropriate ways. The rules and regulations of the government and the public sector bodies relating to the conduct and discipline should include rules and regulations also for prohibiting sexual harassment and provide for appropriate penalties in such rules against the offender. As regards the private employer, steps should be taken to include the aforesaid prohibitions in the Standing Order under the Industrial Employment Standing Orders Act 1946. That appropriate work conditions should be provided in respect of the work, leisure, health and hygiene to further ensure there is no hostile environment towards women at workplaces, and no woman employed should have reasonable grounds to believe that she is disadvantaged in connection with her employment. So you see that there should be a complaint committee, and the complaint committee should be headed by a woman, and it should not less than half of its members should be women. Further, to prevent the possibility of any undue pressure or influence from senior levels, such complaint committee should involve a third party, either NGO or other body who is familiar with the issue of sexual harassment.